New developments can have a cost. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I'm here tonight to talk about Take Back the Block by Chrystal Giles. I stumbled onto this at my library the other day, and I hadn't run across it before, and it seemed like kind of a neat premise. Wes is in 6th grade. He's an average 6th grader. He likes shoes that are related to his favorite athletes, playing video games with his friends, and trying to avoid the things his parents are into. Now, that's trickier in Wes's case because his parents are community activists. They're very involved with their community of Kensington Oaks. They regularly participate in protest marches and the like against new condo developments and such. And Wes is dragged along to every single one of them. And if the protests are covered by the media, he ducks away before he has to be seen on TV by his friends and other classmates. But he manages, and things are basically okay. He has a core group of friends, 2 who live in Kensington Oaks, his best friend Brent and his longtime friend Alyssa, but 2 other members of his crew have moved on. Maya's dad got a job that paid quite a bit more and they moved into a much nicer area of town, but she's still, for now, attending the same school. And Wes's friend Kari had to move on. When his parents got divorced, he and his mother had to move into a different apartment, and then due to gentrification in that area and the redevelopment of that area, the building of a new condo complex, his mother was forced to leave that apartment, and they're currently living in a motel. So Wes has already seen that changes and new developments and so on can affect the people in his lives. Well, it hits closer to home when he learns that Kensington Oaks is also a prime target for redevelopment. A development company is interested in buying out the homeowners there so they can create a brand new condo complex and I believe a commercial district as well. The offer creates a rift in the community. Some members, like Wes's mom and dad, want to stay there, want to maintain what they have, and keep a sense of community and history intact in Kensington Oaks. A few others, including Brent's father, want to take the money and run. They're being offered more than their homes are currently worth, more than it would take for them to buy a new similar home elsewhere, and it would give them a chance to really get ahead in their lives. And it creates a big commotion among the residents of Kensington Oaks. Now, because Wes has grown up with activist parents, he takes an active role in this. He doesn't want to lose his home. He doesn't want to lose his neighbors and his friendships and the school he goes to and so on. And so he starts looking into ways to bring the community back together. First, he and his friends plan a block party, which seems to bring everyone together and reminds them of their past. But then the development company ups their financial offers and it creates more commotion among the residents of Kensington Oaks. With nothing left, Wes talks to a teacher of his who connects him with a woman who works for a group that tries to save neighborhoods from redevelopment. And they embark on a bigger plan to try to have Kensington Oaks recognized as a historically significant area, making it much harder and more expensive to redevelop. And so then it's just a question of whether Wes can accomplish this, whether he can stay away from his parents while he does it, because they've said that he's done enough in terms of advocacy for this effort, and whether he can overcome the obstacles in his way, his friends' parents not liking the idea of fighting things instead of taking the money and running, and so on. It was great. It was fantastic. I've heard about gentrification and the problems it causes, and I've read different things talking about gentrification being very, very much intertwined with segregation. And this book still brought new insight to me. It gave me another perspective on the whole thing, because I'd always assumed that the gentrification process mainly affected people who rented. And it was really, really sad when the process happened and that they'd lose their homes in favor of a new development with chain restaurants in it. But I could sort of understand it, that the owner of the place might want to take the money and run and not be a landlord anymore and not have tenants anymore. And so I could understand that, even if it was still sad to think about. This story, though, with the residents of Kensington Oaks by and large being owners, that added another twist to it. I didn't consider the fact that the same process would have the individual owners having to make the hard decision about whether to take the money and hopefully set themselves up in a slightly better situation, but at the cost of their community and their schools and their friendship and their history, or staying behind and fighting back against the redevelopment onslaught. I didn't consider that stuff, so I actually learned a fair bit of that perspective from this book. I thought that was great. Wes was a great, well-rounded character. He had very real relationships with his friends and his family and his neighbors, and I enjoyed it, and I highly, highly recommend it. And even small things that were hinted at by the author but not said outright added to the dynamic here. But before I go any further, I'd better warn that spoilers are ahead. We'll talk about the deal breaker in a moment, but I want to keep to the good stuff first. So, late in the book, Wes and Kari are heading to borrow something from a neighbor after Halloween, and a police car stops by, and the officer, a white man they've never seen before, started questioning them, and ultimately decided to take Kari into the station, basically for walking while being black. And Wes is left to go get his parents and get them to the station to get Kari out. And there's some discussion of the talk and how Wes and Kari have been raised to say yes sir, no sir, and follow along with the police to avoid getting hurt. And it's a sad thing. It stinks, but it was handled very, very well in this book. It came across as very, very real, and the implication, while I can't confirm it because it was never stated outright, Wes sort of implies that this has never happened before. Their precinct police officers are reasonable people, and this intrusion from the outside world, something that he and Kari hadn't had to deal with before, happened after the developers started sniffing around Kensington Oaks and made their offers. Whether it was intended or not, it served as a real-world reflection of all the bad stuff outside trying to push its way into the neighborhood. It served as an implied threat that if the property redevelopers didn't get what they wanted, they would find other ways to make the residents agree. It was compelling, it was a little bit disturbing and sad, but it was incredibly well written. I have to give Giles all the credit in the world for writing it so well. Now, I do have to talk about a very, very small deal breaker. While I assume he would have learned something while hanging out at the library with his mom while she worked as a librarian, I have a hard time believing that Wes, and only Wes, could find the historical background for his neighborhood when nobody else involved in this effort could. It's a little bit ridiculous. I understand that he had different motivations than some of the other people, that it was a very, very personal effort on his part, but I have to call shenanigans here. Still, it was a great read. It gave me stuff to think about. I highly recommend it. So the next time you're at your public library, I highly recommend that you try picking up Take Back the Block. I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you like this book, you could also try something like The Colossus of Rhodes by Christina Uss, which I've also talked about on this channel, about a boy in a similar situation where his parents are potentially losing their home and he tries to find a way to save it, not through having it designated as a historical area, but by helping reroute traffic flow in the city of Los Angeles. I recommend that one quite a bit as well. With that, thank you for listening to me talk all about that book. If you like this video, please like, please subscribe, and please check back to see what else I have to talk about from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.